Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm breaking down our main event for UFC Fight Night 263. In this one, we have Steve Garcia taking on David Onama. Garcia is 18-5 as a professional, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Meanwhile, Onama is 14-2 as a professional, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Before I get any further, let me just say this is easily the best fight on the card. I think this will be fight of the night. And while it's not big on name value, it is huge for what these two can possibly do. As I've been getting a lot of Sarukian versus Gamrot vibes from this fight. Back when Gamrot and Sarukian were first scheduled to fight each other, they were the top 15 of the lightweight division, 11 and 12 respectively. And when those two fought, we didn't really know much about him. Then we witnessed one of the best fights of that year, and easily one of the best fights that involved a lot of grappling for sure. And honestly, I'm getting vibes for this fight. Now, not so much grappling as more striking, but Garcia and Onama are two rising up-and-comers in the featherweight division. They have been making waves. Garcia himself on a 6-fight win streak. 5 of those are by knockout, while Onama, a 4-fight win streak. Overall, only, my apologies, about 6-2 in the UFC, or sorry, 5-2 in the UFC. His only losses are to Mason Jones on short notice and Nate Landwehr, who's a perennial tough out. But that fight was 3 years, or a little over 3 years ago, about 3 and 2 months ago. So it really shows what the potential are for these two, as well as both of them are in their prime. 33 for Garcia, 31 for Onama, respectively. This is going to be absolute fireworks. And, well matched because Garcia and Onama are 12 and 13 respectively ranked for the featherweight division. And, whoever wins this is going to just climb up that ranking. Now, looking at Garcia, as I said, 6-fight win streak, 5 of those are by knockout. Knocking out Chase Hooper, Shailong Norden-Beke, Melquizael Acosta, who is Song Woo Choi, Kyle Nelson, and in his most recent win, he defeated Calvin Kattar via dominant decision this July. Meanwhile, for Onama, besides the loss to Nate Landwehr, which was again 3 years and 2 months ago, Onama is currently on a 4-fight win streak, knocking out Gabriel Santos, defeating Jonathan Pierce by decision, Roberto Romero by decision, and then most recently this April defeated Giga Chikadze by decision. Looking at Garcia, he might have some of the best natural power in the featherweight division right now. Now, there's definitely some other fighters on the roster of featherweight who might hit harder than him, like Josh Emmett, Diego Lopez, and Joan Silva. But besides those three, Steve Garcia is one of the hardest hitting featherweights right now. And one of the interesting things about Garcia is, while, he absolutely swings for the bleachers and has some of the best killer instinct in this division, his movement is very interesting. It's kind of a Nate Diaz style, that just relying on his long frame, kind of odd movements. Persistent with his jab, very good with his cross. Fights out of southpaw, so it's his left hand specifically is where his most of his power comes from. And one of the things about Garcia is he's honestly moved up and down from lightweight and featherweight before. His debut was at lightweight against Luis Pena, and his fight with Costa was a short notice bout that was moved to lightweight. What else that I'm thinking about is, the other thing I'm definitely thinking about for Garcia is, besides, like I said, his natural power, if not knocked out, he's dropped every opponent he's fought before, and even has some great wins on the regional scene. This guy beat Chepe Mariscal on the regional scene, which has aged spectacularly. Garcia is also pretty good offensively and defensively with his wrestling. You saw with Costa, who couldn't garner much control time. Now, most of it was Costa pressing Garcia against the fence, but Garcia was very good at getting right back up and breaking the grips of Costa. And then once Garcia is able to get top position, he's got natural instincts with his ground and pound. Really good aim, good at timing his elbows and hammer fists when need be. And it's all gas and no brakes with Garcia once he's on top, because he will smash his opponent. And he's got damaging ground and pound. You saw with Kyle Nelson, the fucking lump on the back of his head. Now, granted, it's not. I'm not saying Garcia was dirty fighter. It's kind of when Nelson was like trying to move. Trying to get up, and unfortunately, his the back of the head was shown, and Garcia took it. I think it was more so by accident, but it's what it is. Still, the lump that immediately produced was scary, turning Maquizio Costa into a bloody mess, fucking up the face of Chase Hooper. Every time Steve Garcia lands clean on these guys, he's going to damage them one way or another. And he's going to drop you. He will drop just about every opponent he faces if he lands clean. Now, Garcia is there to be hit at times and does not have the best overall defense, as he's been rocked and dropped before and got knocked out by Mahashate. Now, granted, that was at lightweight, and Garcia seems to be definitely more durable at featherweight. But against like Shai Norenbeke, for example, he got dropped a few times in that fight, right? As well as who was it? He got clipped clean by Sungwoo Choi a few times. Now, he didn't get dropped in that fight, but he did take some unnecessary clean hits. But one thing about Steve Garcia is, you notice he is sort of a builder. What that means is, as the fight goes on, they get better and better. Similar in vein to like Piotr Yan, or who else am I? Or like Cheeto, for example. In the first round is probably like their weakest round. Ironic enough, considering how many first round knockouts Garcia currently has, and like of this run, he has 3 of his wins are by first round knockout. But you kind of seen like the not the Kyle Nelson fight, but like the Shadi Norenbeke fight, or Calvin Kattar fight, that Garcia is able to pick up momentum as the fight goes on, and he starts opening up more. He lands better combinations and starts finding home for the left hand. And like I said, he's got pretty good offensive wrestling too. He knows when to use it and has some good time takedowns. Pretty good defensive grappling. And is very good at capitalizing on mistakes. Like when Kyle Nelson had his back, Garcia waited for the right moment to when the body triangle was loose, and then turned to get to full guard. And then from there, just unloaded with the ground and pound. Now for David Onama, he's going to be the better technician of the two. We've got very good long-range weapons. Actually, I take it back. Has very good weapons from all ranges. Good long-range kicks and good straights. Good medium-range weapons, mostly with his boxing. And good close-range weapons as well, with uppercuts, tight hooks, good calf kicks overall. I will say Onama's fight IQ is definitely his most prominent factor, and very good at mid-fight adjustments. For example, he was counteracting the aggressiveness of Gabriel Santos by just starting to find home for the rear uppercut. And eventually, Garcia was just starting to kind of walk into those shots, as it was all forward pressure from Santos. And Onama eventually just capitalized, and as I said, just kept throwing the rear uppercuts when he saw the opportunity. That's how he knocked out Gabriel Santos. Or in the Roberto Romero fight, where, Roberto took that on short notice, and you can see he had a lot of moments early. So Onama started to pivot more towards his superior grappling and let Romero kind of burn himself out in that fight. And then in his most recent fight with Giga Chikadze, having a lot of trouble on the feet, because Chikadze is a really fast starter, very elusive on the feet, and fast, especially in round 1. But Onama was eventually able to do better with cage cutting, finding home for his takedowns, finding the opportunities to shoot in for his takedowns, and having overall really good control, and even having better moments on the feet, as he was able to kind of just let Chikadze kind of sprint. And then as we moved on, and as the fight moved on, Onama, who had the better gas tank, was able to how I want to say this, had the better striking moments, as Giga was clearly tired. Now, if there is one flack about Onama, is while he had a really good fight IQ and was able to last longer than Giga as the fight went on, Onama does tend to fade as the fight goes on, and mostly does tend to slow down his volume. So in the first and second round, Onama is definitely at his best, especially when he's able to line up his right cross, which is his best punch. But as the fight goes on, then you can definitely see, like I said, his volume starts to wilt. He's not as defensively reactive, like his takedown defense and his ability to get up. That's how Nate Landwehr was able to beat him. Is just weather or some early adversity and then eventually build the fight late, or sorry, win the fight late and get the decision. I will say, in terms of the grappling between these two, Onoma is better with his overall submissions, while I think Garcia is better with his ground and pound. But man, this is such a close fight. At open, it was dead even. Now the odds has kind of shifted, as Garcia is a minus 130, while Onoma is a plus 110. Still a pretty close fight. Looking at the physical stats, Garcia is going to be the much bigger fighter at, slightly bigger fighter at 6 foot with a 75-inch reach, while Onoma is 5'11 with a 74-inch reach. Honestly, I think a lot of this fight depends on how the first round goes, because that's when both of them are, or that's where one of them is at arguably his best, because Onoma is definitely better in the first round, while Garcia is arguably at his worst in the first round. But make no mistake, just because he's a builder and can start slow doesn't mean Garcia can't win by first round knockout. As I had said, 3 of his 6 wins are by first round finish. It really just depends on how much the opponent is willing to give to Garcia, because Garcia is happily going to fight in the fire, as he does rely on his chin and recovery, which he does seemingly have pretty good recovery, especially at featherweight, as Norin Beke had him hurt in their fight and was just able to eventually rally back and won the fight late. Won, and in the later part of round 1, Garcia was able to hurt Norin Beke and drop him at the end of that fight, and then build from that momentum onto round 2. So honestly, I don't think this fight's going the distance, but both these two are very good finishers. Garcia, I think, better overall finishing and killer instinct than Onoma, but make no mistake, Onoma himself is a great finisher. Like, look at that knockout with Gabriel Santos, or the submission of Garrett Armfield. Onoma has great killer's instincts. So it really comes down to who can build momentum first. And even then, not only just who can build momentum, but who's going to be better at dictating the pressure and the pace. For Garcia, he's going to be fighting off his front foot mostly. He does not really step backwards. While Onoma is definitely going to be a little more tricky with his footwork and fight at range better. But, oh man, honestly, what's so good? This is what's so amazing about this fight is, like, if either of these two hit each other with their signature punch, like Onoma's like right straight and the left cross from Garcia, they can knock each other out. As while both have really good chins, they are still susceptible, and both have been finished before. Now, granted, Onoma has lost more decisions than Garcia, as Garcia has been finished before, like I said, against Mahashate. But I mean, he hasn't been finished. But that fight was, years ago, and Garcia has proven to still have a pretty good chin and good recovery. And honestly, you look at, for example, like the Mason Jones fight. That was like one of Onoma's only losses in the UFC, or one of his only 2 losses. It was a similar vein to the Nate Landwehr fight, where Onoma had a lot of early success. Now, granted, that was short notice and up a weight class, but he had a lot of early success, and Jones was just able to rally late, rely on his cardio and ability to, pick up as the fight went on, and eventually steals like rounds 1 and 2 and win the decision. That being said, I honestly think this fight will be kind of determined in rounds 1 and 2, as, like I said, not only is that when both guys are at their best, where Onoma is at his best and Garcia arguably at his worst, but even then, the 4-minute mark of round 1, Garcia can really pick it up, and that's when he gets a lot of his first round finishes. A lot of his finishes in the first round, Garcia's, are late into round 1, whether the 4-minute mark or a little above or a little beyond that. But that's usually when Garcia gets his finishes, or early round or early second round, like say minute to the 2-minute mark of round 2. That's usually when Garcia gets his finishes. So I think this fight is going to end in rounds 2, or rounds 1 or 2. If it goes past the 3rd round, then I can see that happening. But I do not see this fight going the distance whatsoever. But for my official prediction, I'm going to pick Steve Garcia in this one. While I think both are very skilled, I think Onoma is slightly better, technically speaking, on the feet and better with his submissions. I think Garcia is going to be the natural bigger fighter, has better overall power than Onoma. And honestly, I just think he has overall more gamesmanship and doggedness in him. Plus, Garcia himself is no slouch on the ground and can wrestle very well. And while, like I said, Onoma's better with his submissions, Garcia has very good top control and pretty good positional grappling as well. And if Garcia is able to get his takedowns in, then he is probably going to smash Onoma, is what I think will happen if Garcia is able to get his ground and pound working. But honestly, this is a really close fight, and I've thought about it. I've thought about it closely. It's like Onoma could catch Garcia as Garcia is swinging wildly with a right hand. As there are literally times where Garcia hurts his opponent and he swings so hard he throws himself off his feet. And so I could see Garcia making some of those types of mistakes and Onoma catching him. But with them being in the apex, Garcia is going to have a better ability at cage cutting and corralling Onoma to the octagon side. And from there, that's usually when Garcia can really start to work and dig mean shots to the body, good combinations to the body and head, land with his kicks, and overall just be able to, corral Onoma and just get him stuck. And then from there, just start to unload with his striking and possibly find the kill shot. I just realized I basically said the same thing twice. I apologize for that one. But again, I think it's a combination of one, they're in the apex. Two, I think of Garcia just being, like I said, the naturally bigger fighter. And three, just the power. While Onoma hits pretty hard, I think Garcia has a pretty good chin and might be able to take a few shots. But I don't think Onoma will be able to take the shots of Steve Garcia. So once again, my official prediction, I'm going to pick Steve Garcia in this matchup, and I think he's going to win via knockout. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of this main event. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment of what you thought of this analysis and breakdown, and also leave a comment thinking of who you think is going to win this fight. Plus, I'd love to hear what you think of the potential of these two, and like I said, especially who do you think will win. Well, with that being said, I've been Bo for Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Take care.